Picture this. It's high summer and you're standing at the kitchen counter eating a peach, a real one, ripe and dripping, the juice running down to your elbow. And when you've eaten it down to the stone, you do what every single person does without a thought. You toss that pit in the bin. Same with the plums. Same with the cherries you spit into a bowl. Straight in the trash, all of them, and you never think of it again. Now I want you to stop, because here is the thing that ought to give you pause. That pit you just threw away was a tree, a whole peach tree, trunk and branch and blossom and summers of peaches yet to come, folded up and finished and sitting inside that stone, waiting. And you've been throwing away a whole orchard, one pit at a time, your entire life. I want you to stop and think about this for a second because it changes how you'll look at a fruit bowl forever. Nobody has to sell you these trees. Nobody has to sell you the seed. The good Lord already grew a complete tree inside every peach and plum and cherry you eat and packed it up safe in that hard stone and set it right there in the middle of the fruit. And we carry it home and throw the tree in the garbage and keep only the part we eat. And unlike so many of the store-bought wonders I've shown you, here's what makes this one special. A peach, a plum, a cherry, an almond. These are trees of our own cold country. They grow beautiful and strong right here in Ohio, out in the open, for 50 years and more. This isn't a houseplant you nurse along. This is a real orchard tree, from a pit that cost you nothing. That's the oldest knowing there is. Before ever there was a nursery to buy a tree from, this is how orchards spread across this whole land. A person ate the fruit, saved the stone, and grew the next tree from it. Nothing wasted, and a whole grove raised from what would otherwise be thrown away. Let me show you how it's done, and the title's right. It's just 3 steps. Let me tell you who I am. My name is Jacob Miller. I'm an Amish farmer out in the Holmes County settlement here in Ohio, and my wife is Rebecca. Now this one is genuinely our way, and these are genuinely our trees. No tropical thing to nurse indoors, no honesty note about the frost, for these trees love the cold. They need it, as you'll see. But I'll give you 2 honest truths straight off, the way I always do, so you know exactly what you're growing. The first, you cannot just poke a pit in the ground and wait, it won't come up. These seeds are locked, and there's a particular thing you must do to wake them, and it's the very heart of this whole video. And the second, a tree grown from a pit does not always come true to the fruit you ate. It may give you a peach a little different from its parent, now and then poorer, and now and then wonderfully even better. That's simply the way of a seed, and it's why the big orchards graft their trees instead. So know what you're planting, not a guaranteed copy of that grocery store peach, but a surprise and a living heritage and a real tree of your own, free from a stone. Now let me show you the 3 steps. Before we get into it, if you like learning the old ways of doing things, do 2 small things for me. Tap that like button down there. It helps this little channel more than you'd ever guess. And subscribe so you can keep learning right alongside Rebecca and me. That's all I'll ask. Now, let's grow some trees. Here's the whole of it, in 3 steps. First, saving and preparing your pit, then giving it a winter in the icebox to wake it up. And this is the most important of all, and the reason folks fail without it. And last, planting your sprouted pit and raising it into a tree. 3 steps, and every one of them simple. And it works the same for a peach, a plum, a cherry, or an almond. Save the stone from whichever you love. It all starts with the pit, and the first part costs you nothing at all, for it's just the stone out of fruit you were eating anyhow. But there are a few things to do to give it the best chance. Start with good ripe fruit, and if you can, the local kind. The riper the fruit, the more finished and ready the seed inside. And here's a fine tip. A pit from fruit grown near where you live, at a farm stand or a market, comes from a tree that already thrives in your weather, so it's a better bet than a pit from fruit shipped in from some far warm place. Save the stones from your best, ripest, most local peaches and plums and cherries. Clean the pit and let it dry a day or 2. Wash all the clinging fruit and pulp off it good and clean. That sugary flesh left on the stone is exactly the sort of thing that grows fuzzy mold later in a damp bag, and mold is the one thing that'll rot your seed and ruin the whole effort. So scrub it clean, then set it out on the counter to dry for a day or so before you go on. Now, the real seed is inside that hard stone. The stone is just armor around it, and you've a choice here. You can plant the whole stone as it is and it'll work. It's just slower because the water has to work its way through all that hard shell. Or to speed things up, you can carefully crack the hard outer shell and take out the soft seed inside. It looks like a little almond, and in fact, an almond is exactly that seed. But mind you do it gently. The old folks would tap the stone along its seam with something heavy, just enough to split it, like cracking a nut. Don't crush it, and don't gouge the soft seed within, for that's the living tree, and you'll ruin it. If in doubt, leave the stone whole and just let it take its time. Either way works. And here's a good test worth doing before you go to any trouble. The water test. Drop your pits in a bowl of water and let them sit a few minutes. The ones that sink and settle to the bottom are good and full and heavy with a living seed inside. Keep those. The ones that float up and bob on top are most often hollow or dried out or dead within, with no living seed to them, so set those aside. It's the same test the old folks used on all manner of seeds, and it's a fine one. It saves you weeks of tending a stone in your icebox that was never going to sprout for you in the first place. 10 seconds now saves you a wasted season later. Now here is the heart of the whole thing, the one step nobody knows, and the exact reason folks plant a pit, see nothing happen for months, and give up thinking it a failure. It is not a failure. They just skipped this. So hear it well. These seeds will not sprout until they have been through a cold, damp winter. And since you can't wait on the weather, you give them that winter in your refrigerator. Here's why, and once you understand it, the whole mystery falls away. And you'll see it isn't a nuisance at all, but a wisdom. Think about it from the tree's own side. A ripe peach drops to the ground in the late summer and the stone lies there in the grass. Now, if that seed were to just sprout then and there in the warm of late summer, the tender little seedling would come up right into the fall, straight into the teeth of winter. And the very first hard frost would kill it dead, and that would be the end of it. So the good Lord built the seed a lock, a bit of wisdom right inside the stone itself. The seed simply will not sprout until it has felt a long, cold, damp winter pass all the way around it. That stretch of cold is the seed's own calendar. It is how the seed knows that winter has come and, more to the point, gone, that the danger is past, that spring has truly arrived, and that it's safe at last to send up a shoot without being frozen for its trouble. No winter, no waking. The cold is the very key that turns the lock, and all you're doing in that icebox is handing the seed the winter it's been waiting for. So you give it that winter yourself, and here's how. Take your cleaned pits and wrap them in a damp, not dripping, just damp, paper towel, or nestle them in a bit of moist peat moss or sand. Put that inside a plastic bag, and write the date on the bag, for you'll want to know how long it's been. Then set the bag in your refrigerator, back where it won't get forgotten, and leave it there about 8 to 12 weeks, 2 to 3 months of cold. Check on it every week or two. See that the towel's still damp, and give it a spray if it's drying out, and watch for any mold. And here's the exciting part. Somewhere in there, right in the bag in the icebox, many of them will crack open and send out a little root, all on their own. That's the seed waking. That's the lock turning. Now, one honest note the old-timers knew well, and it's worth having. Of these 4 trees, the almond is the willing, easy-going one. It often needs the least cold of all, and will sometimes sprout with hardly any winter at all behind it. But the peach, the plum, and the cherry are the stubborn ones, and they truly do want their full 8 to 12 weeks of chill before they'll so much as think about waking. So don't lose heart if the cherry's still sleeping while the almond's up and rooting. That's just their nature. Don't rush them, and don't give up on the slow ones. Give every one of them its whole winter, right there on the shelf, and each will wake in its own good time when it's good and ready. Patience here is repaid. When a pit has cracked open in the bag and pushed out a little root, it's awake and ready, and it's time to give it some soil. Start it in a pot. Fill a good deep pot with plain potting soil. Deep, mind, because these trees send down a long taproot early, and they don't like it cramped. Plant your sprouted pit about an inch or two down, with that little root pointing downward, and cover it over gently. Water it in, and set it somewhere warm with good light. And before long, up comes your seedling, a little tree, the first leaves of an orchard, out of a stone from your kitchen. Let it grow and get sturdy before it ever faces the world. Keep it watered and in good light, and let it put on some strong growth and toughen up over its first weeks and months. And when the time comes to move it outdoors, don't just carry it straight from the windowsill into the full blazing sun and the wind. That's a shock that can set a tender young tree right back, or even finish it. Ease it out gradually instead over a week or so, a few hours outside in a sheltered spot the first day, then a little more each day, letting it grow accustomed to the sun and the weather bit by bit. The old folks called that hardening off, and it's the difference between a seedling that sulks and one that takes right off. Then plant it out in its place, and choose that place well, for it'll be there a lifetime. Give it full sun and room to grow to its full size, well clear of buildings and other trees. Dig a good hole, set it in no deeper than it grew in the pot, firm the soil, and water it in well. And then, here's where this one asks something the quick tricks don't. Patience. These are trees, not radishes. Keep it watered through its first year or two while it roots in deep, and know honestly that it will be several years, often 4, 5, or more, before it fruits. That's the truth of growing a tree from seed, and I'll not dress it up. But oh, what you're growing while you wait. Don't think of those years as empty waiting, for they're nothing of the sort. Every single spring, long before there's any fruit, that tree will foam over head to foot with blossom, soft pink peach flowers, snow-white plum and cherry. And there are few lovelier sights in all this world than a fruit tree in full bloom against a spring sky, humming with every bee in the county come to drink. It'll throw cool green shade in the summer for your little ones to play beneath. It'll turn color in the fall. Year by year, you'll watch it grow from a slip of a thing into a real and spreading tree. And then one day, years on, it'll hang heavy with fruit that you grew. From a stone you were one careless second away from throwing in the bin, and whether that fruit comes out just like its parent or turns out something all its own, it will be the sweetest fruit you have ever tasted in your life, because it is yours, and you grew it from nothing, and you waited for it. Let me run the 3 steps back for you plain. First, save the pit from good, ripe, local fruit. Clean it, dry it, and either plant the whole stone or gently crack it for the soft seed inside, and do the water test to keep only the ones that sink. Then give it its winter, damp paper towel or moss into a bag with the date on it, and into the refrigerator for 8 to 12 weeks until it cracks open and roots. The one step that makes the whole thing work. And last, plant your sprouted pit in a deep pot, root pointing down. Grow it on sturdy, harden it off, and set it out in a sunny spot with room to grow. And then be patient, for the tree is worth the wait. That's the whole of it, in 3 steps. And here's what that gives you. A real orchard tree, a peach, a plum, a cherry, an almond, growing in your own yard, hardy in our cold country, living for decades, blossoming every spring and bearing fruit for years to come. All from a stone that cost you nothing, that you'd have thrown in the trash without a second thought. There are few finer things a person can do with an afternoon and a little patience than plant a tree they'll pick fruit from and shelter under for the rest of their life. Now let me tell you why nobody ever told you this. And by now, you know the answer before I say it. There's no money in a peach pit. A nursery would far rather sell you a grown tree for $30, $40, $50 than tell you that the stone in the fruit you just ate is a tree for free. There's no profit at all in teaching folks to save their pits and give them a winter in the icebox. And so it isn't taught. And a knowing that once planted orchards across this whole country quietly slipped out of people's hands. A tree that any family could grow from their own supper became a thing you buy. And the pits, the free trees, go in the trash by the millions. And here's the honest math. A single fruit tree from the nursery runs you $30 to $50, and more for a big one. The pit costs you nothing. It came free inside fruit you already bought and ate, and it was headed for the bin. A bag, a paper towel, a bit of space in your refrigerator, and a pot of plain soil. You've all of it already. So an orchard's worth of trees, that would cost you hundreds of dollars at the nursery, can be grown for the price of nothing at all out of what you were throwing away. It takes patience instead of money. And patience, unlike money, is a thing you can always find if you've a mind to. The nursery sells you the years somebody else already waited. Grow it from the pit, and you do the waiting yourself, and pay nothing but time, and you get the joy of watching the whole thing happen besides, which the nursery tree never gives you. Now let me be straight with you about the title one last time, the way I always do. Grow peach, plum, cherry, and almond trees from your pits. Is it true? It is, entirely. And it's a wonderful truth. But I told you the two honest things at the start, and I'll say them once more so you're never let down. You must give the pit its winter in the icebox. Skip that, and you'll wait forever, and nothing will come. And it's the one step folks miss. And the tree won't always give the very same fruit as the peach you ate, and it'll be several years coming. So plant it for the surprise, and the blossom, and the shade, and the heritage, and count the fruit a glorious bonus at the end of a patient wait. Do it knowing that, and there's no disappointment in it, only wonder. And the Amish way in 3 steps. That part's plain true. 3 simple steps. Our own trees, our own cold country, and nothing bought. So here's what I'd have you do this week, or rather, this season, for this one follows the calendar. Next time you eat a good ripe peach or some plums or a bowl of cherries, don't throw the stones away. Wash them, do the water test, wrap the sinkers in a damp paper towel, put them in a bag with today's date on it, and tuck them in the back of your refrigerator. That's it. 5 minutes and nothing bought. Mark your calendar for 10 weeks on and go and check for that little root. You'll have started an orchard out of your own dessert. And here's the sweetest part of it. Make this one with the little ones, for there's no better thing you can plant in a child than a tree. Let them save the pits and do the water test. Watching which sink and which float is a small wonder all its own. Let them check the bag in the icebox week by week and be the one to spot the first root. And then let them plant it and water it and watch it grow. And here is the great gift of it. A tree grown by a child grows up alongside that child. And every spring's blossom and every year's fruit will be theirs. And one day, their own little ones will eat peaches off it. There is no better way to teach patience and hope and the long kindness of planting something you tend for years. That's how the old knowing comes back, not out of a book, but one saved pit, one patient winter at a time. Now I'd love to hear from you. Tell me down in the comments, have you ever grown a tree from a pit, and how did it turn out? Was the fruit like its parent or something new? And what other things do you grow from what most folks throw away? Share it down there with the rest of us. Those old ways slip away for good when nobody writes them down, and I read every one. So the next time you eat a peach down to the stone, or spit out a cherry pit, and your hand moves to drop it in the bin, stop and hold it a moment, and see it for what it truly is. That's no scrap. That is a whole tree, decades of blossom and shade and fruit, packed up small and waiting inside that stone that you have already paid for, needing nothing from you but a winter in the icebox and a patient year or 2 in the ground. The good Lord grew a whole orchard inside the fruit we eat and set it right there where we'd throw it away, and asked only a little patience of us to raise it. So save your pits, give them their winter, plant them with a child, and grow far more than you need, so that one day you can share the harvest and the shade with the people you love.